You're listening to the Launchcast, the podcast about leadership, business, life, and growth with me, your host, George Andriopoulos.
It's like food for your ears.
At this time, I'm going to ask that you fasten your seatbelts.
Launch sequence.
Launch sequence activated.
Launch sequence activated.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Woo! Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Launchcast. I know it's crazy out there, but I still love this theme song. Episode 116 entitled, We All Live in a Mellow Quarantine. It's the Launch Dad himself, your host, George Andriopoulos, bringing you your favorite podcast on the planet. We're talking leadership, we're talking business, we're talking life and growth, and we're doing it as the beat drops. It has been a crazy week, folks, and I thank you so much for joining me here. We're going to do a little bit of a different format today. We've had the episodes where I do my one guest, and I have my interview segment, and we get into our in-depth interviews, which is it's what we're about here. And then we have when crazy stuff goes on and I go on my monologue and it's just me. So today is going to be sort of a combination of both. We're going to have a few guests on today, and we're going to be talking about what's going on right now, which is the coronavirus crisis and everything surrounding it. And you know that we talk about leadership and positivity on this show, and it's so important that this whole platform is about helping. It's about helping leaders to understand their leadership, helping leaders to stand up and say, I'll do it. I'll help. I'll be the one that goes out there and helps. And so I hope this episode will inspire people out there to sort of get up and do what it takes to keep the world turning, because in essence, that's what this episode is about. It's about accepting what's going on right now. It's about being safe out there, but it's about creative solutions to keep the world spinning. That being said, I want to bring up my first guest today, and I'm so excited about this. Let me bring her on screen here. Yeah, there she is. Let me zoom you out a little bit. There she is. All right, cool. Hello. We have Jen Klock on today. Thank you so much for joining me, Jen.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Of course. So let me tell you guys a little bit about Jen. So Jen Klock has been a 7th grade social studies teacher at Howitt Middle School in Farmingdale, New York, my hometown, my place, for 5 years. She knew she always wanted to be involved with music in some way, shape, or form, and started out helping out with the stage crew for 2 years in the musical. And that was when she first started out with it. And this year now was her first year directing the musical alongside Dominic Raphael, right?
Yes.
Yeah. This is actually my first time meeting Jen in person, in virtual person. But I was lucky enough to have a daughter who was in Jen's musical this year. And oh my God, my daughter Mia just absolutely loved everything about this. It was so cool for her to jump into this thing that's going to, help bring her identity. 6th grade, she's in middle school for the first time. And so it was exciting for her, and she had a blast with you guys.
That's awesome. We loved her. And yeah, middle school was definitely a wacky time. So it was very cool seeing all the kids from this angle, outside of the classroom, and actually getting to see them as people more than just students in a history class. It was really neat meeting her and all the other students involved and working with them. It was awesome. Yeah, and they loved working with you. I know that for sure. I saw that, and after the musical when they had their thank yous, and it was really incredible. Why I wanted to speak to you is because there was something really cool that went down, and it's really surrounding
this crisis that went on here. And so for the last 4 months, my daughter was part of the ensemble, so she didn't have a main part or anything, but she still just enjoyed every second of it. She spent the last 4 months, every spare second of her time rehearsing and going to rehearsals, and they did Little Shop of Horrors, right? That was your musical this year. And so leading up to the show is when things really got serious with coronavirus here in New York. Things were starting to get shut down. There was talk of the schools being closed. And so why don't you pick up and sort of tell us the story here?
Sure. So basically to kind of jump in there, we entered the coronavirus crisis right in the middle of Tech Week. So for those of you who don't know what Tech Week is, it's really when you put together everything that the cast has been doing with the technical side of theater, so the lights, the sound, so all the microphones and the staging and whatnot. And it's a very stressful process on its own. And, we were silly to think like the only problem we'd have that week was like the microphones not coming on at the right time, or the lights, not, the spotlights being off. But like, so that we were already in a decent amount of stress because of that. And then we started noticing our cast losing their voices, and everyone's kind of getting stomach viruses and strep throat and this. And it was just such a stressful few days that we ended up, canceling rehearsal just so everyone can stay healthy. We disinfected the entire theater, all the props, the backstage area, thinking we'd come back, everyone would be fine. The worst case scenario is again, the tech part isn't perfect, but the cast is fine. Last Thursday, we ended up having our 5th grade, almost like dress rehearsal or preview. So all the elementary schools come to Howard Middle School and they see the performance basically for the first time with an audience. And it went so smoothly, and it was a celebration. And even the day before, we had a faculty meeting talking about how other things were being canceled, but our show was still going on. So it was a very positive vibe in the school, even though, the undercurrent was something a little frightening. So after our day of celebration on Thursday, we came home. We're all right, well, we got opening night tomorrow. It's okay. And then I got a call from my principal about 6 p.m. on Thursday saying that the show was officially canceled. And it was the most I don't know, it was a punch to the gut. It was just, we were all just hysterically crying. This is the directors. This is before we told the kids. Just the thought of all of their, when you say 4 months of work, you hit the nail on the head. It is every free second you have for 4 whole months. Just all of that work thrown out the window. And especially with this group of kids, this group was so incredibly special and so incredibly talented that the thought of them not getting a chance to perform in front of an audience and get their moment was just heartbreaking. So we were really left in a panic that evening of how do we make this work? This isn't fair. And, obviously we were being a little selfish in that other schools are, their musicals are still going on. The high school show is still scheduled. Why are we the ones who are being punished?
Now, just to paint a picture before you go on, just for those that maybe don't live in New York, here, right, this is when numbers really started going up in New York State. And I think that was pretty much around the time that we overtook and became the highest population of coronavirus.
It was overnight. It was insane.
Overnight. It was all of a sudden the numbers stopped going up by 2 or 3, and they were going up by 70, 80, 90 a day. And so that's when things really started hitting. And so as a parent, I know Mia's mother and I were constantly in conversation every day, hey, what's going to happen? Do you think it's going to happen? Do you think, is it tomorrow? Is it the next day? And so it wasn't so much a matter of, if the school was going to close. We pretty much knew it was going to close because we were seeing what was going on in other areas and all over the country. So it's for those that didn't really think that this was a serious thing, that's really around the time that Thursday was really the day that even for me where I was like, oh, this is serious.
Oh,
this is a big deal.
We left when all the kids left Thursday because we didn't keep them after. They got to go home and sleep. We were all, as the director, saying, I hope we get, let us just have Friday. We figured Saturday would have a good chance of being canceled. So we were kind of all right, let's go into this thinking tomorrow is our one and only show and it'll be great.
Yeah. And
Not
so
a big
even
deal.
even besides the drama of this and the gut punch, because it really was, right, with all that work.
It was horrible.
And you're also thinking about the hearts of these these 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, right?
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah.
Like, it was just really it was sad. Like, they work so hard, and they're the sweetest, kindest souls on the planet, and they deserve every bit of happiness and applause, and the fact that they weren't going to get that was just sad.
Yeah, and so when you think about the other side of it, because we do have to think of the other side, it really was, when you take the emotion out of it, it really was a responsible, smart decision, right?
Oh, the fact that now we're home till I think April 1st or so, I think that was as of last night, almost April 1st. Like, it's like, oh, of course that had to happen.
Yeah.
But we were being selfish. We were looking out for, our priorities weren't in line yet.
Understandably. And so that night, as a parent, I see social media starting to light up. And of course, there's text between all the parents in the play, and, it's all right. What are we going to do for the kids and everything? And then I started seeing a lot of action happening on social media. I saw a petition on change.org that was being put around. So tell me about what happened that night.
Yeah, so I actually didn't know about that until like mid-afternoon on Friday. But the brother of my co-director, Dominic Raffaelli, his brother was one of the stage managers, Anthony. And, this show, it's a team of, staff directors. Then it's also the students. Then it's also, high school volunteers, not only for like the pit and the crew, but also just people that help the show run. So all of our stage managers and people behind the scenes are all volunteers. So the fact that they were the ones who really took it under their wing to get the message out, I think like they were using the hashtag Save Little Shop and stuff. Like, I thought that was so cool that it wasn't us at all. I had no idea it was happening, but it was them. They started it because they saw the hard work that the middle schoolers put into this, and they were really like, no, they deserve their moment. They deserve to let people, see what they've been working on. So that was very cool to find that out.
Yeah, that was really cool. And so did this petition have any effect on what wound up going on? Tell me about the process that night. Yeah.
No. So we didn't know about the petition, but it was very cool to see. But so that night, our principal, Mr. Penny, was definitely like, he's on our side. He wants to work things out. He suggested possibly doing a performance Friday during the day for the 6th graders, and then doing the performance at night, but a no audience live stream. And we were totally fine with the no audience live stream, even though it's sad. But the 6th grade performance during the day definitely made us a little, I don't know, we weren't totally cool with it, just because a lot of the students would not be as into the show as others. And we really wanted our kids to experience like an audience who actually wants to be there and actually appreciates what they're doing. So I know especially Mr. Hulse, one of the vocal directors, he was a little hesitant with the 6th grade performance and suggested doing something like maybe the choruses or the music classes, but it just was out of our hands with coordination. So that night we were able to get approval for the 6th grade show and then the no audience live stream. So like, we were okay with it, but obviously not like totally psyched about the results. So then the next day, Friday, when we went back into school, Dominic and I got to school very early. We were there like a little bit before 7, just so we could kind of have our like moment where we're like freaking out without the kids there. But then as each kid came into the auditorium, it was just like, it was heartbreaking. It was just like, we didn't know what to say. Like, they were crying, we were crying. It was a really hard moment to go through. But once everyone was kind of sitting there, like it was very solemn, and I don't know, like it was a very strange atmosphere, but like we kind of kept bringing it back to our, we're a team, we're in this together, we have to be positive through this, we're going to make this work. It's not ideal in any way, but we're going to make this work. And it was okay. Like, no matter what, we were going to be in the auditorium that day.
Yeah.
And then our principal comes in about a half hour later and is like, the 6th grade show is not going to work. I'm like, why? Like, why? Like, they need, come on, like, this is at least something. But almost 40 teachers called out that day for various reasons and whatnot. But there weren't enough substitutes in the building to cover all the classes. And traditionally, when that happens, it's not very often, maybe once every few years or something. all of those classes without substitutes have to go to the auditorium just so they can be monitored by,
Sure.
you know, a handful of teachers. And so he's like, you guys can't be in here because we're going to have to send all the classes down. And then a light bulb went off in our heads and we're like, wait a second, why don't we put the show on for all of these classes?
That's great.
And he was like, let me go see if that would work. And it did. And we, you know, were able to start by like halfway through, I think, second period is when the kids got into their hair and makeup and costumes very quickly. And we're like, all right, we're doing this. Like, we're doing it now. And basically what we did was we ran the show in chunks from start to finish. And then once it finished, because it's like only a 2-hour long show, we ran segments. So like there's this, you know, we'll do, one song to the end of Act 1. And then we pick up at the beginning of Act 2 and do the whole Act 2. So like we were able to really chunk out the show. So the kids performed the show almost 3 times during the day on Friday.
Wow.
Which like Broadway actors don't do. So it was wild to see that happen. And also by the end of the day, we were all like, we had such a good time with it. We got our principal to jump into a couple of numbers. We taught him a dance for the song Close for Innovation. So he was doing his broom dance, and then we threw him in the dentist chair for the dentist song, and he was being tortured by our little actor who played Orin Scrivello, DDS. So it was like by the end of that day, it was so much fun, and we were not expecting it to be fun.
That's great.
So that was very cool.
I'll tell you that during the live stream itself, and I do want to throw out there that I know the kids were really worked a lot, you know, put it. But I do want to say that I know that you guys were so cognizant of that. You guys gave them off in the middle of the week. They were supposed to have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 to 8 p.m. rehearsals, and you gave them off on Tuesday just because of, you know, people were getting sick and what was going on, and wanted to give them a rest. And so, but they were on adrenaline that day. They were
my God,
ready to
it
go.
was hysterical. Like we went from hysterically crying in the morning to cracking up like, you know, a few hours later. And again, they were running scenes every period. They had one period off.
Yeah.
Like,
and
they were champs that day, absolute champs.
What was so cool was, the vibe surrounding the parents now, right? So we were so excited for the kids that they were getting to do this, you know, and I think there was a part of us all that was like a little sad for them that they wouldn't do it in front of an audience, although I knew that they did it, you know, in front of the school. But we were also a little selfish in that we, of course, wanted to see them live,
Of course.
you know, and we were so excited. But I think most parents took it in stride because this was such a creative solution to this problem. Deciding to do an empty auditorium, no audience, live streaming the thing, treating it as if it was the live show. Because I watched this thing from start to finish. There were no gaps. There were no stop. This was like a live show as if there was an audience there. And I will tell you right now, because the camera, I think there was only one time because it showed some of the ensemble walking down the aisle. You did not realize that there was no audience there watching it. I don't know if you watched the live stream back at all.
I watched it a couple of times.
You did not. There was whether it was the pit or I know there was a couple of administrators in the audience or whatever. I don't know. There was some cheering going on. There was, I guess, like the support from the back too and from the pit, and you completely forgot. And what was so cool was it was another level of show. Now I, you know, besides what I do for a living, the company that I own, I do public speaking. And so I had 5 or 6 keynotes that were canceled in a 3-day period. You know, I spend usually, I only travel for my keynotes in the spring, once in the spring and once in the fall, because you know, I have kids and I have responsibilities. So most of my keynotes are here in New York. But I had, you know, Miami, Tampa, San Diego, New York City. These were all canceled on me. And so I saw a couple of shows that were doing some creative stuff, and I'll get into that later because we're interviewing a few people involved in that. But this solution, the live stream, not only did you give the kids what they needed to get out of this after 4 months worth of work, but it was a different level for us as parents because I was sitting at the edge of my couch. Like I rushed home from the office. We got food. I had to stop and get flowers for my daughter before picking her up. And I was like glued to the TV, and it was like we were watching like a world premiere of a movie
so
on
that's
TV.
kind of what because they live stream any show at Howard and the high school too. They live stream
Yeah.
But and then we're like, it's going to be empty. There's going to be, just the crew, the pit, a handful of teachers who are scheduled as chaperones. And we're like, we're going to treat this like it's one of those TV live musicals, like Hairspray Live. So Dominic Raffaele came up with that idea. It's like, let's go all out for this. So like, and this was a lot of stuff that wasn't captured on the camera, but we set up in like they have in the during the Oscars and other award ceremonies where they have pictures of the celebrities where they're going to be seated. We printed out, with the help of a couple of the art teachers, printed out some celebrity faces to decorate a couple of rows. So, Ariana Grande was in attendance and Justin Bieber. So like that was funny. We had this 4-month running joke that our choreographer was one of the original cast members of Little Shop on Broadway. And we ended up getting her like a custom Tony Award with her name on it. So we had a little ceremony right before the live stream started where the whole cast, the pit, so we tried to make it as fun and unusual as possible, so it wasn't just like a normal show. And because we know, like, you're going to be performing in front of 20 people scattered throughout the auditorium. So we wanted to really go all out and make it as unique and special as we could. And I think they were definitely receptive to that. Like, we ran around and did interviews with all the celebrities, and it was fun.
Amazing.
It was a good time.
We talk a lot about leadership on the show, Jen. We talk about things that are spark moments. It's a big term on the show. Spark moments are just these pivotal moments in a person's life where, good or bad, you look back at these moments and you realize that these were moments for you that really helped to take you down a certain path in life, right? Whether it's good or bad. And these spark moments often have such a large effect on our lives going forward. So what I want to say here is, in a number of ways, I'm sure for you, this was a spark moment, not just as an educator, but, a leader to kids, somebody that's trying to inspire kids to do what they love. I know for my daughter, she's a smart kid. She does fine in school, but I know that this is her passion. And so we've been looking forward to her going to middle school. As scary as it is, we've been looking forward to it because we knew that she was now going to be exposed to the theater and she was going to be able to really see if she loved this or not.
That's awesome.
And so for her specific, and I know there's probably 100 other kids that were like that in the musical. For her, I know this is going to be a spark moment for her. I know because I remember, and we talked about this via email, in that very same auditorium 27 years ago, I was mug number 3, and Give My Regards to Broadway. Really, there was no mug 3. There was only Muggsy. And because there were so many guys that fit the part, they wound up doing a Muggsy, and they did 4 mugs.
That's awesome.
We each had one line. But I remember, and I did that under Michelle Lindsley, who passed away. But I remember every day of rehearsal. I remember that same stuff, the 7 to 8 o'clock rehearsals. Yep. I remember the day. It is a memory I will never forget. And I didn't turn into a theater kid by any means, but like, but
it meant something.
It meant something. And for my daughter to know that she had that memory, it means so much to me as a parent. So what you did, what you guys all did, to pull together and use that creative solution to make it happen. I can't thank you enough for it. I'm sure kids thank you. And
thank you. I sent out right after the show Friday night, I sent out on Remind just a thank you to parents.
Saw that.
Obviously we have a really good relationship with the students in the cast, but just this year especially, I can't express how much the parent support has meant. It was an unbelievable amount of support, throughout, not even just this week, but just throughout the entire process of just everyone being so kind and helpful. And it really it totally blew my mind because I was not expecting that at all. So thank you, and thank all the other parents who were involved, because it made it so much more special knowing that you guys were on board, and it really was a team effort on all fronts.
Yeah, absolutely. We're happy to do it when you're providing that kind of attention to our kids and that kind of leadership. It's that's what we're there for. We're there for support. So, any final thoughts before we move on to our next guest on what's going on right now? Any advice? Any thoughts?
So it's interesting because when Dominic and I took over, this is our first year directing together. Dominic has been involved with the play since he was a kid. He did the stage management. He's been, volunteering just even when he was in college. He's been an assistant director for a few years. So this is the first time he and I are like, the two directors.
Yep.
And we went into this along with Mr. Holtz, Mr. Franzino, and Miss Dello Iacono. We went into this really like a team. Like we were all on the same page. We were preaching positivity. We were really trying to set a different tone than what has existed, in prior years. We wanted this to be like our little project. And it's so funny how that is really carried throughout all parts of the rehearsal process, but then especially like, what ended up happening.
Yeah.
That Friday. Like it's just I don't think ironic's the right term, but just maybe serendipitous in a way.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, oh, like this is how it was supposed to turn out. And like I know, like at first we were upset about the turnout, but I'm like, you know what? Hopefully, no one will ever have this experience ever again. And it got to be, as a group, we all got to do this together, and I think that is really meaningful. And like together for parents, students, the faculty involved, just really having that team effort from the start, I think made such a difference.
Yeah, I agree. The only way that we're going to get past this time is as a team.
Yeah,
and no matter
absolutely.
no matter what it is we're dealing with, if we're not working as a team, then we're not working. So
it's true.
Great advice, Jen. Thank you so much for being with us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right,
It was amazing.
absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely. That was such a great example of creativity in times like this. I think why I was so adamant about doing a special episode this week surrounding the coronavirus crisis, but not particularly the crisis, right? The solutions to keep us moving forward. That's what this really is about. And I think why I was really attracted to doing this week is because of what I have seen, be it on social media, be it with clients. I have been in crisis control mode with my clients for the last probably 7 to 10 days, particularly the last 3 days have been out of this world. For those of you that are not in New York, I'm sure you're all dealing with your own struggles in your own states and the guidelines that they've imposed. But for us here, I'm on Long Island. We're based in Farmingdale on Long Island, Nassau and Suffolk counties. And so we're just outside of Manhattan and New York City, New York City's 5 boroughs. And so our schools were closed on Friday. They announced the closure for Monday and Tuesday. And then Sunday, I believe, they announced that New York City schools were going to be closed until like the end of April or something like that, and put all these limitations in New York City on large gatherings and restaurants and this and that. And so that's where the freak out really started. They also Sunday announced that schools on Long Island would be closed for the next 2 weeks. So I think when those guidelines come into play, that's when the hysteria starts. And I don't want to use that word hysteria. I don't use it lightly because I do feel that a lot of the reaction is warranted. And this is super serious, and we have to remember that. But what do we do as leaders? What will a leader do? What have I always said? A leader will stand up and say, I'll do it. And so in this case, I want to be one of those people that is talking about the positivity, that is talking about how to move forward. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I am a business owner. I'm a public speaker. I have had numerous keynotes canceled in the last few days. This week, all of my traveling keynotes for the month of March and the month of April have all been canceled. Every single one of them. And so all that revenue is down the toilet. All of the revenue that I would have gotten from being a keynote speaker, from the business that would have come subsequently from my keynotes, that's all gone. And that's a big chunk right there. Now, my core business, Launchpad 516, my consulting firm, that's not too affected in terms of revenue, but my clients are affected. My clients are affected. I think 30% of our customer base are in the restaurant and bar industry, in the food service industry. And so they're getting hit really, really hard. And so they've been freaking out. So I worry for my clients, because if my clients aren't succeeding, then I'm not succeeding. And so there's been a lot of nerves this week surrounding this. You know, when things start closing, I think you naturally just start getting nervous. And then when it starts having a real big effect on you, potentially long term, it's fucking scary, man. And so I'm going to repeat the major guidelines to getting through this. Wash your goddamn hands, number one, and don't touch your face. Yeah, I saw you. I saw you doing that. Put that hand down and wash it. All right. That's number one. Number two, listen to these guidelines. I get it. It's a pain in the ass. I know. If I weren't in a position right now where I have a flexible schedule and my kids are off from school and this would have been a childcare issue, this would have been a bigger deal to me too. And I get that there are so many parents out there that are in that position. I get that there are food service workers. I get that there are bartenders and waiters and waitresses and that it's affecting your livelihood. I completely get that. But you know what I also get? Death. And I'd rather not be dead. You know, am I overreacting here when I say that? Maybe. I don't know. But when we start using those words, it's a little fucking scary. You know what I mean? I'm not going to play around with that. I'd rather lose a few bucks for a few weeks, regroup in a couple of weeks, and move forward. Now, about losing those few bucks, that's what I want to talk about here. Does it have to be that way? Possibly. Can we get a little creative? Yeah. Fuck yeah, we can get creative. That's what I do, man. That's what I do. I'm all about the creative. I'm all about the strategy. And so we have to stand up and figure out a way to move forward right now. We cannot sit here and cry and whine about how much life sucks right now and the Black Plague is back and we're stuck in our houses. Because we all know, or we all think we know, I should say, this will be over in a few weeks, maybe a couple of months. I don't know. I can't tell the future. Neither can you, by the way. So sit down, whoever just stood up and say, I can tell the future. You're wrong. You're wrong. Sit down. We can't tell the future. And so in order to control the future, we're going to have to control what we do now. I'm going to give you a good example. Yesterday, I hosted a business mastermind call. I called clients, I called colleagues, I called executives, I called friends, I called anybody that either has a stake in the game or anybody that has good ideas or anybody out there that's just willing to share. And we hopped on a Zoom call. There was about 15 of us on the call. There was another 15 on the list who received the video of this call. And we talked strategy. It was food service industry, events, production, musicians, promoters, technology companies. I mean, there was everything. There was coaches on there. There was realtors, travel agents. I mean, any kind of industry you can imagine, we were all there and we talked it out. We talked about our problems. We talked about solutions. How do we move forward? Here are some creative ideas. It was really beneficial. And I did what I do. I facilitated, right? I facilitated. I talked. I told people my ideas. They shared their ideas, which were, by the way, brilliant ideas that I never would have thought of. And I'm supposed to be the strategy guy. But you know what? I shared with my community. In fact, not only did I share with the community, I created a community out of thin air yesterday. Poof! Community built. 30 people that potentially didn't know each other. Now they know each other and they're allies to each other and they're helping themselves. They're helping get past this time right now, this difficult time for all of us, where every morning I have to wake up to a press conference and then midday there's another press conference, and those are gonna basically guide how the rest of my day is gonna go. And guess what? Yesterday, it was a shit show. Both press conferences led to 48 phone calls immediately following the press conferences with fires that I had to put out at work. And I get it, and it sucks. But you know what I did? I put those fires out, and I helped people put their fires out, and we moved forward. And so that's why I did this show today. I didn't want to sensationalize coronavirus. or COVID-19. COVID? Do they call it COVID or do they spell it out? Who knows? I didn't want to sensationalize this. That's not what this was about. I wanted to talk. I wanted to communicate with my community, which includes you, by the way. Yeah, you that's listening right now on your iPhone in bed, in your feety pajamas, in your onesie. I'm talking to you. I wanted to communicate with you. I wanted to share my experience with you in order to help you and your situation. And I hope that you will reach back out to me to help me with mine, because that's what a goddamn community does for each other. Don't you get this, guys? This is what leadership is about. This is what I've been trying to tell you. These times right now are when leadership matters. When the shit hits the fan, and not to be gross, but we're all covered with shit right now. Somebody threw a big turd into the fan and the fucking thing exploded all over us, and I'm covered in shit right now. Are you grossed out yet? Yeah, so am I. But you know what? I'm going to wash myself off. I'm going to get back up. I'm going to dodge those fans, and I'm going to get through this next few weeks just like we all are. And if you think you're not going to get through it, you're wrong. But if you don't get through it successfully, that's your own doing. That's your own doing. Get creative. I have heard so many creative ideas in the last couple of days. They have blown my mind. We just heard Jen Klock talk about this creative solution to a problem that they had. That, in essence, that saved the spirit of a couple of hundred 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. That creative solution that put a smile on all their faces, that gave them this memory that they will never forget, all because somebody was willing to stand up and come up with a solution. That being said, I want to bring on our next guest today. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to have a few guests today. This is a different format. This is the Launchcast is ever changing. We don't do just one thing. We want to keep you guessing. And so we're going to bring another guest on today to continue this conversation, because that's what we need to do. Let me bring her on screen. This is my friend Jennifer Muccioli. Hello, Jen.
Hello.
Hi. Jen has been on here before because she helped me co-host the Carol Silva episodes 105 and 106, two of our highest rated episodes. Was it Carol? Was it Jen? We don't know. We'll never know.
We don't know.
We'll never, ever know. Jen is also the co-host of Sanity is Overrated, which is one of my podcasts on my repertoire, my subscribed podcast that I listen to every 2 weeks when they come out with a new episode. Jen co-hosts along with Laurel and Rob, and they have a hysterical podcast, which I love listening to, which, by the way, started off filming the first few episodes right here in the Launchpad studios. So yeah, thanks for being here today, Jen.
You're welcome. I'm so happy to join you. And yes, the place where it all started.
Where it all started. You know who sat right here in this seat? Jeff. Jeff sat right here in my seat. I feel so honored.
We call him Effervescent Jeff, our technical director.
Let me do my impression. Ready? Hello. That's my Jeff.
He's come a long way since you last saw him.
Oh, yeah? Huh?
We get him to say one sentence now.
So Jen, why I wanted to have you on here today in the capacity of a fellow podcaster. You know, this is a crazy time right now. And so, you know, we're not journalists by any means, but we have a platform. We have followers. And there's a reason why we do this. So I want to hear your thoughts on what's going on right now. And as a leader, as a podcaster, as a leader out there, what are your thoughts on what our responsibility is right now?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, George. I think it's a question I know my team and I are talking about. My co-hosts, Rob McCaffrey, Laurel Rizzo, our technical director, Jeff, we're talking about what is our responsibility to our listeners right now, and how can we best help them through this unusual and unprecedented time in our society. And I think the conclusion that we have come to as a team is we keep going. That's our responsibility, is that we keep going. Our podcast is structured to talk about issues that people are juggling every day. We call our fans the jugglers. And we share our stories with them in the hopes that our strategies help at least one listener out there. We do this by remaining positive. We look for diverse opinions, and we use a little bit of humor to temper and moderate how we're communicating. And I think there's been no greater time now for all our jugglers to unite around how are we going to get this together. So we really want to make sure that we're communicating to all of our listeners, new and existing. We're with you. We're in this together, and we're going to rise above and come out on the other side better for it.
I love that. That positivity. I spoke about it a little bit earlier during my interview with Jen Klock and during the transition. You know, it's funny that you're on here today because you helped me interview Carol Silva, and we actually had a really powerful segment with Carol where we spoke about some big things that happened in our own history, whether it was 9/11 or Sandy hitting Long Island, hitting the East Coast. And we talked about how important it was that she was on the air for us. She was our person on the air that brought us that news. And so, you know, whether this is news, whether this is entertainment, whether this is just thought leadership, what we do, I think there's a place for it. I think what people look for right now is a sense of normalcy, you know, and this episode being about how to keep the world spinning in a comfortable manner while we're all going through this. I think it's important that there are options out there like podcasts, you know, like TV entertainment. You know, some live entertainment now is really having a tough time. You know, I talked with Jen Klock before about her show being canceled and then rescheduled as a live stream. We're going to be talking to Speakers Who Dare later, the producers from Speakers Who Dare, about how they have changed their formatting. I myself have, I think, 6 keynotes that were canceled in the last week coming up for March and April. And so live entertainment not being an option anymore, you know, people heavily rely on what we do. And I personally am really up for the challenge, and I'm excited to be able to bring the conversation to the forefront.
Yeah, and I think people are really looking for those familiar voices through all of this. They're looking for those people who they identify with, they have a connection with, and someone that's going to really walk with them through this journey and not just tell them, you must do this, you must do this, it's socially responsible to do this and that, but just saying, hey, I'm right there with you. Look, my daughter took her first virtual Taekwondo class tonight. Her dojang said, look, we're closed, but what we're going to do is we're going to live stream all of our classes. You're going to check in with us. Right? Her drum teacher, her DJ teacher, my son's teacher, as your kids go to school too, they've sent us lesson plans. So I think everyone, whatever situation you're in and whatever circles you're in, be it social circles or family circles, we're all looking for those familiar people that we identify with and we connect with to just say, I'm in this with you. And our fans are no different. They've come to rely on our episodes. They look forward to it. They engage with us. And I think we have a really great responsibility to not let them down in this situation.
Can you tell me a little bit of how you're feeling right now with all this? I'm just curious.
You know, I'm a juggler. I'm first and foremost, the reason why we put together our podcast, Sanity is Overrated, is because we, first and foremost, we're jugglers. And, you know, on a daily basis, without COVID-19 hitting our airwaves, we felt that there was a real issue we needed to tackle. And that is, how do we handle it all? And so I think even going into COVID, I had a level of anxiety that said, how can I possibly manage between my work life and my home life and my social life. I wanted to talk about those things. I wanted to tackle big elephants in the room, and this added to that, right? So this added to our, yes, we must be talking about anxiety. We must be talking about strategies to overcome how we handle relationships differently and how we connect with people differently. So if anything, not only am I feeling anxious, I'm also feeling optimistic that it is giving us the permissions we needed, those reinforcements we needed to talk about these things. For me, the biggest topic we're tackling with our podcast right now is keeping people's emotions and mental health in check. And what are those resources available to them if they're really struggling and they need that extra guidance through?
And I'm glad you mentioned that. I actually am going to be posting in the show notes when this comes out. I'm going to be posting a lot of resources that I found. And there are some really great resources. There's a Facebook group that I just joined that was, I don't know if it's Long Island based for all those listeners that are not in the New York area, but it was a coronavirus resource group. I'm sure there are different groups like that within your localities as well. But yeah, the positivity around this is what's going to get us through. Jen Klock earlier talked about team, using the team, leaning on the team to get you through this kind of stuff. In your other life as a professional, I'm sure this has been really affecting work. We talked a little bit before we started the interview about change management. Do you see a normalcy coming anytime soon?
Look, you're talking to a person that has redefined that word normal about 100 times since last Wednesday. So I'm not really quite sure what normal looks like. But yes, I believe that what we're experiencing now is our largest change management program ever. The entire country is going through it. And so I think coming out of this, we will all be redefining what normal looks like. And I'm not sure, maybe more of these virtual connections will become the norm. Maybe more of these meal kits that restaurants are selling and craft kits that craft stores are selling, and all of these different ways that we are connecting with one another, with our families, with our environment. Maybe that will become the new normal. So maybe the new normal hasn't even yet been revealed itself. Maybe somewhere next week, some new normal is going to rise up, and we're all going to be now shifting focus and going in that way. And that's what I think. We have to prepare ourselves for: is prepare for the things we don't yet know, and be ready to receive them.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I had this conversation with somebody the other day. You and I in our professional lives, we deal with conference calls all the time, Zoom calls and Skype calls. And I'm noticing now, since our kids go to the same school, that I'm watching some other parents try and navigate Google Classroom and at-home learning with some of the digital resources that the school is providing. They really don't know where to start, and so since you and I may be familiar with this kind of stuff and other people aren't, I think it's kind of cool that everybody's sort of being forced to look at this right now and redefine what it means to communicate digitally. And yeah, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe we learn to grow. We specifically talked about, a colleague of mine and I the other day talked about how easily some large organizations have shifted to 100% at-home work. And some companies that I know are doing this for at least the next 4 weeks, if not longer, right? And then you think about the office space that they're in Manhattan that cost them probably a few $100,000 a month. And you kind of go, you know what? Is that really necessary? It's kind of weird to look at that kind of stuff and go, you know what? You can completely operate remotely. What are we doing here? It's just an interesting point.
Yeah, and look, I'm one of those early adopters right there with you. As soon as a new technology comes out, I'm usually second in line behind you, George, on getting ready to adapt to the new technology. But I even found myself in a situation yesterday with my daughter's fourth grade teacher saying, now what's that password to Raz Kids and how do I get into Dreambox? And it's not because I wasn't comfortable. It's because I had to almost retool my brain in that moment to think, not only am I going to be a worker through this, I'm now going to be an educator.
Yeah.
And those are two very different mindsets to straddle during one day. I'm one person, and now I'm being asked to work an entire day and educate a child, right? And I think I was about an hour into it when I said to myself, my God, teachers need to make $1 bazillion a year. $1 bazillion a year, because I can't handle doing that and doing that well. So if I didn't appreciate teachers before, which I certainly did, man, do I appreciate them now.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually curious to see what this looks like in a few weeks because it sounds to me like you've jumped in with the home learning and making sure that they're not going to miss a beat. We personally took the viewpoint of, hey, we're gonna make sure the work is done that's being assigned, and we're in a little bit of a different situation because my daughter being in middle school now, there actually, believe it or not, has barely been anything assigned so far for her, and so we're kind of taking this approach of let's just get the work done that they're assigning. They're not really going to be pushing out too much new learning at the moment, in my opinion, and then we'll see what this looks like in a couple of weeks. But meanwhile, I have seen some crazy setups on Facebook from some parents. Like, I'm impressed. They've built like little mini schools, and I'm like, my kids haven't gotten out of their pajamas in the last 5 days, you know?
Yeah. I think that's incredible, isn't it? Just to show, even in our little microcosm of where we live, the diversity of students. I have a son that learns a little differently than others. So I have had to call in the reinforcements because I know I can't provide the level of learning that he needs during this time. So I've called in some really great reinforcements, and they've set up a classroom for him. And so even the difference between how my daughter is learning and how my son is learning is vastly different. And so I give credit out there to all the moms and the dads and the grandmas and the grandpas and the aunts and the uncles and the teachers now that are taking on additional responsibility to help those that really need it.
Yeah, for sure. What's the next episode about? Is this a corona-centered episode or what? Give me a little tease.
Yeah, I'm giving you a little teaser. Yes, the team, we are being set up virtually as we speak, and we will be bringing you an episode. It was an episode that we had scheduled to do, but not until a little bit in the future, episode on anxiety. And how we manage through anxiety. But we found it very prudent to move that fast forward it. So our next episode will be on anxiety. But until then, an episode did just drop on Tuesday. And that is our birthday episode to our beautiful co-host, Laurel Rizzo, who turns 40. And we throw it back to the 80s with a good old TV-themed quiz, which, spoiler alert, she did miserably.
Did that drop? That dropped today?
That dropped today.
Oh my God, I didn't get a notification. I'm listening on the drive home. I'm so Laurel, we have to shout this out because I know she knows now. Her surprise party was kiboshed because of everything going on, because the venue closed down. So she can't have her surprise 40th. But I'm so anxious to hear this anxiety episode, because I have been giving your co-host some anxiety for the last couple of days because we have been. So for those that don't know, her co-host Laurel actually works with me here at my company, and we have been doing damage control for all of the clients that we service that are freaking out right now about what's going on, rightfully so. And so Laurel and I have been working some social media damage control for them, and trying to right the ships. So I know she was super stressed yesterday, as was I.
Yeah, we'll just play her some 1980s TV theme show music, and it'll put a pep right back in her step.
She won't.
She loves
she won't
it now.
know the theme,
Big
though.
fan.
She won't know the theme though. It's all right. Jen, thanks so much for joining me, guys. We're gonna We're going to continue the conversation and then hit another couple of guests later on. But again, I want to thank Jen for joining me. Catch the Sanity podcast. Sanity is overrated. Jen, give us the info.
Sanity is Overrated is a podcast for those who are juggling it all. Catch us on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be happy to welcome you into our juggler family.
All the good stuff. This juggler thing is new. I never heard that before. That's a new thing for you guys, huh?
You must not be paying attention to our social media, George.
Oh, I didn't catch it. Did you know that the Insane Clown Posse followers are called juggalos?
No, I didn't know that.
You better be careful. You better be careful that no juggalos fall into your circle because you'll be in trouble.
No. Rob carefully curates all of our jugglers.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. All right, Jen, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
All right, what's next here? Oh, Launchpad 516. Fabrizio, put that good stuff on for this one. Yeah. Yeah, I like this. Launchpad 516. What can I say about this company? My life's work. I founded this company in 2013, and man, what a journey it has been since then. I took everything that I've learned in business, in life, the mistakes, the successes, and I built this company with one mission in mind, and that was to go out there and fix businesses. And damn it, we have done it. Management consulting, what does that mean? You need help with growth strategy. Your company is failing. Your company needs help growing. Your company is doing good, but just needs that little extra push. That's us. We come in, we analyze, we work with your people, and we help you figure out how to get to the next level. I promise you that. Now, what else? Marketing? Sure. Media Convergence, the marketing agency within Launchpad 516. We have Fortune 500 clients, and we do it all. Web design, web development, social media marketing, email marketing, SEO, pay-per-click, video and graphic production, all of it. Public relations? Yeah. We are a creative marketing agency, and we get your brand out there, plain and simple. Welcome to creativity is our slogan, and we mean it. Now, what else? Coaching? Sure. We've been coaching for years. You just didn't know it. We've been coaching CEOs, COOs, C-level executives under our consults for years, but now with the leadership experience, we're taking it to the streets, and we are coaching one-on-one with individuals like you. You need help with personal growth. You need help with career growth. You need help finding your leadership and changing the world. That's that. The leadership experience will do that for you. And all of this, it's under the umbrella of Launchpad 516. So visit us at launchpad516.com, launchpad and the numbers 516.com. Check out the link in our show notes. Let's change the world together, guys. Fabrizio, great choice on the music, buddy. All right, another remote guest. I am exhausted at this point. This is more work than I have ever done on this show, ever. 2 interviews, 2 separate interviews, 1 show, and more coming. But I got to do it. I got to do it because this is what the Launch Dad does, right? And so I want to take a break from this for a second to talk to you guys about a little something secret here. Hang on. I recently came in contact with this bottle of Clorox wipes. It is 80% full. I found this in my bathroom cabinet here at the office. I'm willing to part ways with this for no less than $2 million. This starts with 75 wipes. I would imagine they're probably about 55 or 60 in here at the moment. what did I say, 1 million, make it $2 million for these wipes, and they are all yours. I'm going to flash a phone number on the screen. You can talk to my agent. And no, seriously though, how crazy that is going on. Not just a price gouging for reals online, but people trying to turn around and sell hand sanitizer and Clorox wipes and Lysol wipes. Like, holy cow, what is happening right now? I feel like by next week we're gonna be like looting stores and robbing people for rolls of toilet paper. Like, come on, guys, come on. Let's get with it here. I mean, this is serious, but come on. Let's not be dicks here and sell hand sanitizer for $100 a bottle. I mean, what the hell, man? You can't put me in front of a microphone by myself, because this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. I need more guests, and that's why we're going to bring on another guest right now. And when we go on, I may be wearing a different shirt because I'm recording this part on Tuesday, and the interview is going to be on Wednesday, our next interview. But that's okay. I'll bring the scarf so that there's some continuity there. And the scarf, it's good for a few things. Number one, it'll bring continuity tomorrow when I record, and hopefully you don't notice I'm wearing a different shirt, but the same scarf. I'll wear the glasses too. My beard might be a little longer. Hair might be a little different, but who knows? But the scarf will provide continuity. What it also does is it covers this section right here, my midsection, which is my most embarrassing section for me. So it's covering that, and it's a little bit of style. I'm bringing a little style to it here. We could do this. We can tie it ascot style, and oh my God, did I just do that? We could tie it ascot style, do one of these, it's kind of fancy, right? Or we could just do I call this the Gone with the Wind. Just do like the flip over the back. And hey, I'm going skiing and I'm stylish, right? If you're not watching the video, this probably sounds completely insane. If you're watching the video, this also probably sounds insane. But time for our next guest. So I want to shift the conversation a little bit. We've had a couple of guests already today, and as I told you the last time I recorded, I'd be wearing the same scarf and a different sweater for continuity purposes, but it's a different day. This is a different kind of episode here on the Launchcast. We're switching it up. And so right now I want to bring on my very, very good friend and colleague, Tricia Brouk. Let me bring you on screen, my friend. Oh, lovely. Look at that. Look at that. Hey, Tricia, how are you?
I'm great, George. Thanks for having me. I think it's a good time to have these conversations.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. So, guys, if you don't know already, Tricia is an award-winning director. She's worked in theater, film, television. You need to catch her on episode 102 of the Launchcast. We did the full treatment, so you can hear more about her. But very specifically right now, I am speaking to her in her role as the executive producer of Speakers Who Dare, a very, very important speaking event that I had the honor of speaking on last year. And so right now, I'll let Tricia tell the story of how this whole deal right now has affected Speakers Who Dare, but take it away.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. I think that in this environment of uncertainty and fear, we have an opportunity, all of us, to innovate and to become creators. And I believe that that kind of resiliency is really, really important now in an environment of such fear and uncertainty and ultimately chaos. I live in New York City, and the energy of the city is insidious, which is why your mindset and your communities are so, so, so important right now. Speakers Who Dare is scheduled for March 24th at 10 a.m. It was scheduled to be a live event at the Triad Theater on 72nd Street. And when this all started happening, what I realized was I could innovate and I could turn that live event into a live stream, and I could keep the speakers safe by removing the audience. So we went from no events for over 500 people to no events with over 50 people to no events with more than 10, no gatherings with more than 10 people, to Broadway shutting down, all the theaters shutting down, all the restaurants and bars shutting down.
Well, I want to pause there because I do want to take this one step at a time in terms of what happened to you. So I want to talk about the first pivot first, and discuss that a little bit, and then we'll move to the second pivot.
Amazing. The first pivot was really removing the opportunity for anybody becoming infected by taking away the audience. So removing all of the audience members, giving them a full refund, and giving them an opportunity to watch a live stream of all of my speakers at the Triad Theater, still putting on the show, still having the actors, the speakers, the performers, the music, the dance, the band on stage, but it would then be a group of 25 people rather than 155 people. That was the first moment of creative innovation.
And I thought that was, it was so important, and it was such a great move on your part in doing that pivot, because now I've been in the shoes of these speakers, and so if you don't know the gravity from the outside of what Speakers Who Dare will do for you as a speaker, you do know from the inside, being as a part of that community. And so this is a special moment for a lot of those speakers. Now, some of them have been there before, and some of them have been on the bigger stages before. But for some people there, it was their first real big stage, and it was going to be life-changing for them. And so you giving them that opportunity and putting aside everything else, putting aside the business of Speakers Who Dare, because make no mistake, everybody, there is a business here behind this. It costs money to put on an event like this. And so those ticket sales are offsetting the costs and feeding a few people's families. And that's the point of all this. It keeps the world spinning. And so creating that pivot and giving these people an opportunity to still have that big stage, which is what you bring to people, to me, that was super, super special. And so you pivoted, right? And then you told your speakers. And so talk about that process in terms of how they felt.
They felt supported. They felt excited that now they had a global stage. And I did a Facebook Live in the private Speakers Who Dare group about the fact that they were going from reaching 100 people in that theater to reaching potentially 100,000 people, because the live stream can have global impact. And that was very exciting for them. Their friends and family who weren't able to come to New York City now were able to watch them perform on the Speakers Who Dare stage. That was very exciting. That made them feel really great. They were also excited about having a 6-camera shoot. And then we got more news.
Yeah. And so Sunday happened, and those that are not in the New York area that are listening right now, Sunday for us was a big day. I live out on Long Island, which is outside of the 5 boroughs of New York City. And so we got the announcement in the morning that Nassau County was shutting down schools for 2 weeks, some limitations on businesses and all that. And then Suffolk County. And then in the evening, New York City basically announced that they were shutting down pretty much for the next month. Schools are shut down till the end of April. Bars and restaurants and clubs need to shut down. There can't be any gatherings really of a large amount of people. So what happened there? What was your mindset when that all went down?
My mindset was to really balance being able to showcase the speakers, give them a platform to share these important ideas, which are meaningful, inspiring, hopeful, and being a responsible producer. We were still underneath the number of people that was allowed to be in a space together. However, I knew that it was my role as director to make it safe for everyone. And I also knew that if I had said we're going to still live stream without an audience, people would have flown in. And that is how I made my decision. I knew that I needed to make the decision for everyone. I needed to be the person who was going to create an environment that was safe. I needed to make sure that my speakers were safe. I needed to make sure they were not going to come here and then take anything home with them. So I was very clear in that there is no live stream. There's nobody going to the theater. We will not be doing what I was hoping we would be doing. However, I believe that if you all submit a video to me, carefully directed by me, I can put together a Speakers Who Dare film. And it was such an incredible moment of, wait, what? And then all of the light bulbs went off. Going from thinking they were going to be live on a stage with an audience of 100 to being live streamed on a stage to an empty theater, moving from you're asking me to record a video of myself in my home doing the talk and you're going to create a film out of this. That was a beautiful process to witness, because I do know that it's going to be an incredible, innovative film. The way we've talked about these speakers delivering their once was a presentation to, hey, I'm going to talk about something that's really important and I want you to hear it. That kind of intimate communication style, it's going to be amazing. And these speakers have rallied. They have shown up for one another. They are talking about having an award ceremony about who has the best background, who has the best wardrobe. They are just beyond thrilled to be given an opportunity to share the message. And this is why, starting with you today about gratitude and community and mindset, we could have canceled the C word, right? We could have postponed. Not everybody might have been available. What was really important to me is to find a way to support these speakers in community so that they can share their important messages, because we need to be inspired right now. We need to be reminded that there's more than what is happening. And I am not giving light. I'm not making light of everything that's happening and people who are losing jobs and people who are ill. I know that we are going to get through this, and we are meant to be going through this. And when these speakers take this platform on Tuesday at 10 a.m., we are going to be reminded what's bigger than us, and that's really important.
So I'm going to ask you a leadership question now, because I tried putting myself in your shoes in this situation. It must have been tough. Talk to me about what it felt like to, again, contact these speakers a second time and to explain to them how you were going to be pivoting this time from a live stream event to the movie. What did that feel like in terms of, I want to hear about the emotional side of it, because there is an emotional tie to this event and to the speakers after you've been working with them for a while.
How I did this, George, was I did a Facebook Live in our private group, and I went through every speaker one at a time, and I painted the picture of how I imagined them delivering their talk. Carol, I think you're going to be able to talk about stage fright and stage might in your living room. I've seen that comfy couch, and I would love to hear you tell me that story from there. Alexandra, I think that you could have tea with a friend while you deliver this incredible message. I literally went through every single speaker's idea and imagined how I could see them performing it from a location that was personal and intimate. And I literally went down the list and I painted the picture of the film that I saw in my mind.
Yeah. I'm excited for them. I don't know how they feel about this pivot, but just knowing your work, the type of work you put out, I don't know if I had to pick, am I going to be in a Tricia Brouk movie or in Speakers Who Dare? I might actually pick the movie. So I'm excited for them because it's going to be incredible. How are you pulling this together in a matter of like a week now, right?
I am pulling it together. It's what I do.
Right.
I make shit happen, George.
You make shit happen. We will leave it at that. How are you faring personally with all this? You're in the city. You live in the city. How you feeling?
I am feeling fine. I am conscious. I'm washing my hands. I am being mindful of the energy and not allowing it to permeate me at all. Meditation, sleep, continuing to be mindful about your energy level and all of that. And I have have a message to share, and it's these 22 speakers, and I have a job to do, and it's really, really important that we show up for each other in community right now more than ever. And you have shown me that as well within your community, George. So I think that I am in complete flow. I understand that I am living in the eye of the storm, but thankfully I can work from home, and I'm honored and thrilled beyond measure to be able to present the Speakers Who Dare 2020 in this format this year.
Yeah, I'm happy for you. I'm glad that you mentioned being mindful of how you feel and that you're in flow right now, because that's important. It's so easy right now to get caught up in what's going on. We actually named this episode 116 is called "We All Live in a Mellow Quarantine," and it happened as like a kitschy thing where I came up with submarine and quarantine rhyme, and what rhymes with yellow, right? And I made this great graphic for this episode. And then when I found Mellow, I was like, you know what? This is actually how we feel right now. This is how, because this is my day right now. I wake up every day. I'm working from home most of the day with my wife. And then I need to do some studio stuff, which is in my office. And so everybody that works for me is working from home for the foreseeable future. And I do have to get to the office to do some recording in the studio. And once I leave the house, and it doesn't help that it's been kind of a gray sky for the last few days, even when the sun's out. But once I leave the house and I'm here, it's just this mellow, like kind of blah feeling. So I definitely want people to listen to that advice and be mindful of how you feel, and just keep the world turning. Like we said, do what you can to keep the world turning. Don't look at the negativity. Tricia was nice enough to join me on Monday. I hosted a business mastermind session. It wasn't a class. It was a session with clients and business owners and executives and a lot more that weren't on the call that got the video afterwards, because I wanted to share. And so it was important. It was a bunch of us just on Zoom figuring out how to keep our businesses going, how to grow, how to thrive, and how to be creative. So I think this pivot, or these few pivots you've made, are so creative, and I applaud you for these moves. As my good friend Ross Geller would say, pivot.
Pivot. So I love that couch.
Yeah. So Tricia, thank you so much for being with me. I appreciate it so much, and stay safe out there.
You too. Anytime you call, I'm going to show up.
Thank you, my friend. This whole concept of pivoting and really coming up with creative solutions has been the mantra during this show right now. And Tricia, as I mentioned, was on that mastermind call that we did on Monday, and it was just, it was so important to have these conversations right now, and to really explore how we can make this a better situation for ourselves. And so we actually had a surprise guest that walked into the office. I'll bring him up on the screen. We have my friend Rob McCaffrey here. What's happening, buddy?
What's up, man?
Yeah. So Rob actually stopped by to pick something up, and I said, "Hey, man, why don't you hop on here?" While we're socially distancing ourselves a little bit here. We no bro hug or anything.
No, we haven't touched.
No elbows.
We didn't do anything.
No foot kicks. Nothing.
No.
But I wanted to. I thought it'd be an interesting idea to talk to Rob a little bit, because Rob is a friend of the show for many reasons. So one is he is one of the co-hosts of Sanity is Overrated. We had Jen Muccioli on earlier. And Rob is also an actor in New York City. He's a native Long Islander. He's actually a fellow Farmingdaler. We went to school together.
We did. Class of 96.
Class of 97
There
here.
we go.
Yep. East Memorial, class of 91.
Yeah. Oh, I was, what was I? Woodward Parkway.
Oh, you were Woodward?
Yeah, I went to Woodward for 1 year. But before then, I was at the old St. Killian's school. I did that for 5 years.
Wait, you didn't go to East Memorial?
No.
Oh, why did I think you went to East Memorial?
I don't know. Maybe I remember I used to do summer theater there when I used to do like that.
Did you do Summer Horizons?
No. Oh, no. I wasn't that smart.
We're so deep in this.
No,
talk
but there
right
was
now.
something.
Nobody
I just
knows
remember,
what we're talking about.
When we were in school together, did we know each other? Were you in chorus with me?
I was in chorus.
All right, so that's where we know each other from.
That's probably what it is, yeah.
Because I was the star, of course.
And we were talking about this earlier. So you did. Wait, so I don't know what grade you did the middle school musical or no?
Yes.
With Michelle Lindsley?
No, she wasn't there yet.
So
this is before Lindsley.
So I think I did it in 8th grade, so that means you were in 9th.
So it was with Miss Aquilina. She was
Aquilina,
there.
right.
Miss Aquilina was there, and then Miss Lindsley came around after whoever, I can't remember the name of the teacher's name, but she was the chorus teacher at Farmingdale, and then she left, and so Lindsley came in my sophomore year.
In high school?
In high school, 10th
Okay,
grade.
so this was junior high, though. Wait, were you in select chorale
Of course I was.
with Miss Chung?
Yes.
That's where we
and
knew
Jen Muccioli.
That's where. Wait, no, she didn't go to Howard.
She
though.
did go. She did go to Howard.
Oh my gosh,
She went
we may have
to
been in
Howard.
something together.
But then she went to that Catholic school. What is St. Dominic's? Or
Trinity.
Trinity.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I
Look
gave
at
that up
that.
a long time ago.
Look at that.
Yeah. See, but you were in chorus with me.
Oh
Right.
man. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Wow. Okay. I this whole time I thought you had gone to Salzman. to East
No, I
Memorial.
didn't. I didn't go to East Memorial. I used to do summers there when they had like a theater arts program. You know, everyone went to rec.
Yeah.
And
My
went
daughter
outside
does
and
that.
played. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so I stayed indoors. I was an indoor kid doing all those shows. And actually, it was funny before you mentioned that the high school kids at Howard were doing Little Shop of Horrors because I was the dentist. I did the dentist, and everybody's mom and dad, like, anytime I come around, like, they're like, I remember when you were the dentist, when you were back. I was like, yeah, I know, I played the dentist. So that was like my tour de force when I was 13 years old.
My daughter was in the ensemble this year. She's a sixth grader, though, so we were just so proud she even got in. But I mentioned to you earlier, we interviewed at the beginning of this show Jen Klock. So she's the director. I think she's a social studies teacher, we had said, at the middle school, but she was one of the directors of this play. And, they pivoted. They had a situation where the play was supposed to be on Friday and Saturday. They canceled. They reinstated it and did a live stream just to go over it.
That's
and
great.
it was just such I think a brilliant move in terms of you remember those memories. I talked about this before, but I didn't wind up being a theater kid down the line. I could have been because it really was a lot of interest to me. My parents didn't push me in one way or another. But I will never forget that experience in 8th grade of doing Give My Regards to Broadway. I still have the VHS. I mean, it was like one of the best moments in my schooling. And so the fact that my daughter still got to have that was incredible.
I think that was a great idea for them to do that. The work that goes in to putting a production on between the actual performers and the direction and the lights and the sets. I mean, it takes a lot to put on a performance, and then for it to be taken away from them. I mean, it's got to be devastating because so much work put into it, and it happens at that level. It's happening at the level, on Broadway in New York. I mean, everything's shut down. I have one friend who was just in. He was just the lead in Ain't Too Proud, the Temptations musical. And he was in for like 2 weeks, and now he's done. So, I mean, they're waiting for them to reinstate gatherings out there. But the whole Broadway community they're trying to find ways to still connect while we're all, in our own homes. Quarantine. So, and the reason I'm here right now is because I needed some equipment to do some auditions because all of the auditions were canceled. All the studios are closed. All of the different regional theaters are they're moving towards tape submissions in the hopes of their summer seasons to be going on. I mean, we don't know what's going on with that just yet, but everybody's helping each other out via whether it be Skype or Zoom or on FaceTime, and everybody's trying to find ways for us to all help each other. And it's amazing how people come together, especially in our industry. I was actually very impressed by it.
Yeah. It's so interesting to look at different industries. I mentioned before we had this mastermind call on Monday with a lot of industries represented. Retail, food and beverage was represented, manufacturing, event. There was we had a promoter there and an artist manager for a few celebrity artists that was on the call, and it was like everybody is hurting so badly. And you're an actor, but you also at night you bartend to fill in, right?
Forget it. Everything's
so you're like,
shut down.
As we say in the porn industry, you're double fucked right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, thankfully I'm doing all right, financially right now, but I'm definitely tightening my own belt, and I feel bad for the people who are, especially people who are living here and paying the kind of rent they're paying in New York. I mean, they're in a pickle.
Yeah.
And we have no idea how long this is going to be. I the only thing I can give right now to my friends and the people that I love that are part of my community is support. You know, give phone calls. How you doing? It's there's uncertain times, man, and I try to keep my head, you know, level.
Yeah.
And I hope that, you know, if other people need some, you know, some help, some support, that, you know, I can give that to them, and we can give it to each other. You know, especially right now. I mean, you really came through today. I really appreciate it.
Oh man, anytime.
I really
anytime.
do.
Yeah, whatever I can do to help. Just burn that light when you're done.
Yeah,
with
for
it,
sure.
please.
It's gone.
Burn it, set it on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. So I'm interested. I want to talk a little bit first about the bartending now. So, what is the feeling now in that industry in terms of like what? So, what are they saying to you when they're saying you're not coming in? Are they giving you any indication? Or
No,
what?
I mean the bartending that I do are event bartenders. So
Yeah.
basically, it's not like I work at a restaurant that I go to and I have a schedule.
Yep.
Basically, what I do is it's a will call or at will type work, and they'll call me and they'll be like, all right, so for the month of March we have these dates. Can you
Gotcha.
work? And then I say, okay, fine. So then I move like an app and we set up a schedule, and I can work as much or as little as I want.
Yep.
And then a couple of weeks ago, one of my companies that I work for, they canceled one huge event, and I was like, okay. Then they canceled the other event. So then what I did was I called my guy out here that I work for in Roslyn, and I was like, hey man, like, you know, I can work tonight. Do you have a shift? And he was like, we canceled everything for March. So I was like, okay. So I kind of knew I had a feeling that things were going to end up that way. I was like, I think there's going to be more to this. And, but I there's no indication when we're going to have, you know, when these events are going to be rescheduled. Like I said, it's very uncertain because, and there's a lot of money and preparation put on these things, and they're gone just like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. We had an event planner on our call on Monday as well, and a local guy, and everybody's hurting. It's I really feel for people. I personally had, because I traveled to speak as well for keynotes, and I had 5 or 6 keynotes that were canceled for the month of March and April. The months of March and April, it was nuts.
So that's really where we're at. And look, man, I'm not very political or anything like that.
Yep.
So I'm dealing with right in front of me and the people in front of me. I think there's going to be a lot of human beings helping other human beings in your small little communities.
Yep.
And like the other day, the coffee place in the city. in Farmingdale, Flux. I stepped in, I got my cup of coffee, and I had my bike, and I took all of his orders to the post office.
Oh, nice.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's really what I can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, hey man, I'm moving. Do you want me to bring this to the post office? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I brought all of his online orders for his coffee there. So I think that I just want to be of service in this time. I have the time. I have the time, and I'm relatively healthy. You know, so I want to try and be of service, and I think that helps me. That helps me cope with being cooped up and not having where to go and not having work to do, because I like to work. I am not a workaholic, but I like being busy.
Yeah.
I like being around people, and everything that I do is everything you can't do.
Right.
Being around people, serving people, being the life of the party. That's something that isn't available to me right now.
Yeah, well, that service mentality, that servant leadership, we talk about that on the show all the time. This is what's going to get us through right now.
Absolutely.
We have to kind of work together as a team, and I've said this ad nauseum, but it starts with our attitudes in how we're dealing with crisis right now. So the fact that you have that kind of attitude, it kind of shows to me what kind of person you are. What are you doing on a daily basis? How are you turning lemons into lemonade now?
Well, because all of the first off, I get out and I ride my bike, staying away from everybody. but I think it's
We're
I think it's
supposed
okay.
to.
We're supposed
Yeah,
to.
we're
But like I
supposed
get
to.
on my bike and I ride around and I get some sunshine, get that vitamin D, get my head straight. It always helps me think. Now that we have moved to tape submissions, my agent sends me the auditions and I get all the material. There's, I have the sides, I have all the tracks that I have to listen to and, to accompany me with my singing and the songs. And I've just been filming those things, and hopefully, that I'll send that out and another one will come in and I'll do those, and hopefully someone will come of that and we'll get a job.
Yeah.
But that's the hustle.
Yeah.
That's always the hustle. It's just thinking about it a different way. And but it's been really interesting because everybody who is in the same boat, who in this is the middle of audition season. This is like, people's bread and butter for the summer. They're looking to book work from like June through September.
Sure.
And all the regional theaters all over the place, Northeast, Midwest, they're all, they're moving to these tape submissions. So trying to do it as easy as possible, being specific in what I'm auditioning for, helping out the casting directors, letting them know what I'm right for. And because they're the casting directors, they're in a pickle too, man.
Yeah.
They're in a mess because they have to sort through all the submissions and they have to send them to the different regional theaters. So I think being very specific about what you're auditioning for and, giving them your best, the best you can do.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to hear that they're actually, not just getting more creative in terms of accepting those video submissions, but the fact that they're accepting submissions kind of says something, right?
It does. I mean, everybody's very optimistic that this is going to blow over sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And because the industry has to come back. They I don't know the economics of it all off the top of my head, but I mean, people are losing a lot of money, and performers are losing a lot of money. It does sound like, woe is me, but
hey, we have to live.
We
man.
all have to live, man.
We have to live.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what you do in terms of your acting, the shows, you were on Motown the Musical. You toured the
I
country.
did that I toured the country about a year ago. I was on that musical.
Yeah.
That was a hoot.
That's the kind of stuff, man, that gets us through this. I've talked about this before when we interviewed Carol Silva. We had a great conversation, which I mentioned with Jen as well. But we had a great conversation where we talked about tragedies that have happened, that have befallen us, right? And I don't want to compare this to a 9/11 or Hurricane Sandy, nothing like that. But we're in a weird time right now, right? We're feeling a certain type of way, and so we sort of have to get out of that. I remember back to 9/11 where it was that feeling of, a few weeks had passed and it was like, all right, when are we allowed to feel normal again? And what pops out of my head, I remember Friends. Like, I specifically remember when Friends came back on the air. I remember when the Mets played their first game against the Braves.
Oh, yeah, I remember that, man.
Hit a home run. I remember when wrestling came. I remember when WWE had this big show and Vince McMahon comes out into the ring and gives this great big speech and everybody in the arena is crying. I mean, it was like these certain moments on TV and entertainment that really helped us to move through this. And so, the shows you do, even these podcasts, as small as they are, the Launchcast, Sanity is Overrated. They're bringing a smile to people's face.
They do. I feel like when people listen, I like podcasts because at some point you feel like the people.
Yeah.
In a sense, you feel like you know what they're going to talk about if you listen to it constantly. I think it's like a warm blanket for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I know it's something that me and Laurel and Jen, when we get together, we have to keep on doing this because it's something we like to do.
Yeah.
And it gives us we have the facility, and the agency to do it on our own and put it out there, and hopefully the people we have listening, get something from it and feel a little comfort because we're all alone. But I wanted to when you said about when we were doing Motown, that was like 2017, 18, and there was a lot of things going on, especially when it came to the relationships between the black community and the police.
Yep.
And there were a lot of things in that show that mirrored what was going on now that was going on back in the 1950s and the 60s.
Yep.
And but the one thing I realized, and we were all over the place. I mean, we did a lot of down south, which we knew that that's where a lot of animosity was, and there's a lot of problems, and for years. And the one thing that I found was that this music brought everybody together. You had people dancing in the aisles,
Yeah.
all types of people, because the music at the time, what Berry Gordy was doing with Motown, he was trying to bring all these people together, music for everybody, not just music played on the black station, music for people who were black, who were white at the time, and it brought those people together.
Yep.
And he believed that, and he's still around. I mean, he used to come and he'd sit us around and he would explain to us, why it's so important to do this show, especially at that time, especially in 2017 and 18.
Yeah.
And we went out there every day, and I never felt that my cast or any of us were phoning it in, because that music is just so infectious.
Yeah,
and it's part
for
of
sure.
it's part of our history. It's part of our American history.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was always great to go out there, and people loved it everywhere we went.
So
everywhere.
you got to meet Berry Gordy?
Oh yeah, man.
Really?
We met
Oh,
Berry Gordy.
man.
He came and he talked to us a couple
Legend.
of times. He is a legend.
Yeah.
Very good man. Very smart man. And that was an honor. That's something I'll never forget.
Yeah.
And
that's
I
incredible.
understand him better. I understand what he was doing with with Motown over there at Hitsville in Detroit. He saw the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's something we need to see right now.
Yeah, I think we do. People are really focusing on this shit that just. I don't get it involved in political stuff on Facebook and all that. I don't do the Facebook drama, but I commented on a post earlier that sort of jumped out at me, and then the series of events followed that with
That was your first mistake.
Focusing dude, I cannot even tell you the last time I commented on a post like that. I cannot remember the last time that I followed a post like that and commented on a post like that, but it drove me insane, and the shit that people were focused on around this is nuts.
It's amazing how people I mean, you find that people will say things online because it's anonymous,
Yeah.
or they have the screen in front of them that they would never say to somebody's face if they were
Yeah.
sitting
Oh,
face
totally.
to face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keyboard tough guys.
Oh, without a doubt. I'm not a fan.
So speaking of music, I happen to listen to your newest episode of Sanity's Overrated this morning.
Oh my God.
For your game.
Yes, and I won.
You won. By the way, I would have killed in that game. So if you guys do the sequel,
You
I
have to
want to
come
be
in.
on that.
Sure.
Because I think Jen curated that list of songs. That's not nearly the
Some of
entirety
them-
of 80s shows. There were some good ones. There
There's some
were
good
some wacko ones, which I'll talk to you personally about that, Jen. I forgot
Some
to
of
mention
them
that to
were
you.
some of them were a little esoteric, but I was amazed at some of them where they were in some deep dark recess in my mind. Because
Yeah.
when you're a kid they say you're a sponge.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's the show.
Yeah. Well,
That's the show.
there's that thing where, and I heard your process. Some of them you started singing along and didn't say the name of the show until 10 seconds later.
Exactly.
Because you knew the words. You're like, all right, I automatically know the words of these. Some of them you were just playing with Laurel because she knew none of them.
I was trying to let her. I was giving her a little. I was doing some training wheels on that
Yeah.
one. I love you, Laurel. All right, but I got you on that one. I'm sorry.
The first one, I knew which direction that game was going to go when she played the first one. It was the Gary Shandling show, and I'm like, I happened to watch it. I actually watched that years later because I was too young for that kind of show.
I never watched Gary Shandling because that wasn't really my thing. My big thing was TGIF.
Yeah.
Like all those shows, like Step by Step, and
Full House,
Full House,
Perfect Strangers,
Growing Pains. That was on.
Yeah.
I watched all the family shows.
Yeah.
But the Gary Shandling show was not my cup of tea, or like that, or Murphy Brown, because I didn't watch those because
I actually watched Murphy Brown
Did you
when I was
really?
younger. Yeah.
I never watched that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I understood the family.
Yeah.
And with Full House, I had a crush on DJ. So
TGIF was my
Was the
jam.
best,
Was my jam. Believe it or not, my kids I got them on Hulu watching Perfect Strangers,
Oh.
and they have binged the whole. They love Perfect Strangers.
See, I liked that show because I thought that Bronson Pinchot was a genius.
He was a genius.
Yeah.
And they're still. I'll send you a clip of this. When we were in the middle of binging the show, I Googled them because I remember seeing.
Marklin Baker.
Marklin Baker, good.
He does.
Wow.
He does a lot of. He's a big Broadway
still
star.
does a
he
lot.
still does a lot.
Yeah.
He's a stalwart on Broadway.
Yeah,
With plays.
I had seen him on an episode of SVU, and he got he aged a little bit.
He's an old guy. I mean, he's got to be in
one
his 60s by now.
Yeah.
I love Marklin Baker.
So I Googled them, and they had an appearance on a radio show.
Okay.
And it was like they hadn't missed a beat because I remember watching the comedy, and they were so underrated together.
It was a great show.
They were geniuses together. Like,
for sure.
The back and forth they had was incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. I started watching it because Balki was from like a Fugazi version of Greece, which didn't exist. Mypos.
Mypos.
Mypos,
right.
yeah.
Oh, Mypos, he was supposed to be Greek.
Yeah, so it was like a Fugazi version of Greece.
I get it.
Like it didn't. So like in some of when he would speak Myposian, there were some words that were Greek in there. For every like 100 words, there were like 3 Greek words.
I
that he
didn't
would
know
throw in.
that.
Yeah,
Oh
so it was
my
supposed to
God.
be. So I think they had mentioned Greece 1 or 2 times. It was supposed to be some like cousin country of Greece. But
Yeah, like next door, like about that big, like
Yeah.
as big as Montenegro or something like that.
But that's why I started watching that because I was like, oh my God, this is my person. These are my people.
I liked that. I loved that show. I was amazed that I got My Two Dads.
My Two Dads.
That was like a
weird. That was a hard one.
That was
to
a
get.
tough one.
Yeah.
Well, you know what it was? It was the back and forth. It was like this is my one dad, and I was like, My Two Dads.
Yeah.
Because I was a big Paul Reiser fan. That was Paul Reiser before he was on Mad About You.
Mad About You.
Mad About You.
Yeah.
And Julie Louis-Dreyfus was on that.
Yes.
And I don't know. They just lived in this house, and I don't know what they did. The dads did, but
That was before she was on
Seinfeld.
Before she was on SNL for a season.
Was
right?
she? Yeah, that was like a weird
That was
season of SNL.
Yes.
Was that the
It's
season
like
that,
Robert Downey Jr.
I think that's when wasn't there like a
Was on
season
too?
where Lorne Michaels wasn't involved?
That it was Dick Ebersol.
Was that like the Billy Crystal years?
Yeah, it was right. It was earlier than
I know that there's a part. Yeah, there was a
maybe
couple.
it was,
There's a
though.
couple of weird like.
There was 1 or 2
Like
seasons
Lost
where
Years.
it was Dick Ebersol ran SNL. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I mean, I remember the SNL didn't start for me until like Dana Carvey, and
Yeah.
that group. And
I
John
like the
Lovitz.
old stuff too.
I've seen a couple of them.
But after the fact. So
Sure.
like when DVD started coming out, I would buy like the first season, the second season.
Oh, I gotcha.
Because I loved even like the early stuff with Dan Aykroyd, like the commercials.
Oh yeah.
Or the shark.
Bassomatic.
Bassomatic. Do you remember the
Bassomatic.
shark?
Yeah.
Where they would
Land
knock on the
shark.
door? Plumber man.
Plumber Man. Land Shark.
Those are great.
Those are great. I like those. I think I watched a lot of those on Nick at Night. Did they have those SNLs on Nick at Night?
Maybe.
It was something. I'm trying to remember when. But then I remember there was the Nick at Night. So I used to see him and Belushi and that whole like that first group. The not quite for primetime players. They call it.
Right.
And then I think I saw there was like the Billy Crystal years and like Paul Mazeroski. The guy played. I can't remember his name, but he's the guy who played Sweet Chuck in Police Academy.
Oh, right.
But yeah, there was like that group, and that was a strange group of people, right?
Yeah, it was.
But
But he used to do what did Billy Crystal do? Fernando.
Fernando.
You look marvelous.
marvelous. He's great. You ever see his stand up is great. You ever
He's
see his
great. He's one of my favorites.
You ever see I'm sure you've seen the one where he like does his uncle and his dad on the Super 8
Oh no, I didn't see
Oh, it's
that.
so funny. Like, you gotta look for it. It's like he's acting like his family on like a Super 8 recorder. So there's no sound. So they're all just like, hey, how you doing? It's
no, I haven't seen that.
It's very, very funny. I can't act it out, but like, just look, it's part of his stand-up. He's amazing.
He's incredible. That whole show fascinates me.
Yeah.
I'm such a historian when it comes to SNL.
Yeah.
Almost every actor that came out of the show was such a fan. I mean, Chevy Chase.
Chevy
was
Chase,
my guy.
great
until
stuff.
he just went completely
Oh
nuts.
my God, I feel bad because
he's such a dick of a human now.
It's horrible
but,
because
yeah.
because I love I watched Community. And I like that group, but they had such problems with him.
Such problems.
And I feel bad because like you wanted him, I want him to win because he's what's his name? He's he's Sparky. He's
Yeah.
he's the National Lampoon's Vacation guy.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
what was his character's name?
Clark Griswold.
Clark Griswold.
Yeah.
You wanted him
Yeah.
to win, and I don't know what's going on with him as a performer, but all the other people who worked with him, you listen to podcasts and they'll have that group that with Alison Brie, and I've heard her
Yep.
talk, and they're all just like, yeah, there was something going on with him, and they keep it very
there's
close to the vest.
there's an episode of I'm pretty sure it was Joel McHale was on Howard Stern. I'm almost positive this is where
I'll
I
have to
heard
listen
it.
to that.
Had to be. You got to listen to it because Howard is a big Chevy fan.
Sure.
But yeah, you got to listen to it because he goes full out, like explains exactly what went on. It's the whole deal.
I'll have to listen to that.
Yeah,
I'll definitely have to listen to that because that was a great show, and I like Dan Harmon, who did all that, and and the things that he's been doing, and I don't know if you saw that he had to apologize for something that he did on that show.
Oh, no,
you got to
really?
look at that. Yeah, it's very. I mean, it's so funny. Like all these people that I like, they did some really awful things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, but I love Chevy Chase. I like that whole group. Those guys who got in, the Ghostbusters and those guys who started Ghostbusters. I love all them. And then and then that whole middle session, I never saw any of that stuff. But when I got in my teenage years and when I was 11, 12, and it was Dana Carvey, it was John Lovitz, it was
that
Mike Myers,
that was one of the
it
best.
was Tim
Phil
Meadows,
Hartman.
Phil Hartman.
Phil Hartman.
Forget about it. That whole group, Jan Hooks.
Yeah.
I love all those guys.
Well, Phil Hartman established on that show the need for the straight man on the show because he brought so much to the show with just being the straight man.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And so many people have done it since. What was his name? Chris Parnell.
Chris Parnell was a straight man, and
He was the straight
great.
man. He's great. He's great. Chronicles of Narnia.
Yes. Are you kidding?
Oh my God, he was great. And even she's so underrated, but Vanessa Bayer. when she was
Vanessa
on there,
Bayer was
so
hilarious.
underrated because she could play the straight man,
Mm-hmm.
but in such a way where it was so tongue in cheek that it was like she's incredible. She had a little run on Brooklyn Nine-Nine this year that was fucking awesome.
The only things I watch about Brooklyn Nine-Nine, because I just don't. There's a lot of things I just don't catch, but I watch those like YouTube or like Facebook videos where it's just like all of like Andre Brower's, best moments.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah,
I watch.
yeah.
But Vanessa Bayer, you know what I loved when she played the bar mitzvah boy.
Oh yeah,
Is
Jacob.
That
Jacob.
hilarious? Because you know why? How many of those have you been to? Being from out here on Long Island,
Yeah,
how many
yeah.
bar mitzvahs have you been to? As like,
She's perfect. She's perfect.
It's so funny, and like,
and then
it's
the
same thing.
interaction with Colin Jost.
And just looks at him.
Just looks at him and
comes
starts
back.
talking.
Vanessa Bayer was great. I don't know why she left. Did she leave? Or did she get fired? What happened?
No, I think she left. I think the only people that got fired during that time were Jay Farrow
Yeah.
and man, it's gonna kill. Oh man,
Keenan will be there till
Not
they
Keenan,
turn
yeah,
the lights off, man.
he's on the show now. White dude. He's on the show about kids now on NBC.
Oh, I know who you're talking about, but I can't think of his name.
I'm gonna Google it right
Kieran?
now.
Killian?
Killian something. Kilmer.
man.
No, not Kilmer. That's a different guy.
Taram Killian.
Taron Killam. Yeah. Yes, that's it. Yeah.
He was funny, man.
Yeah, he was good too. But I was like, when they got let go, I'm like, what is going on? I actually saw Jay Farrow recently.
Mm-hmm.
He does this thing on IMDb now, where it's a little mini show he does where he's trying to add skills to his IMDb profile. So he'll go like work with a chef for an episode. I saw an episode with Bobby Flay.
Oh my God, that's
where
hilarious.
he cooked so now he could add chef to his skills and
That's
whatever.
pretty funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, they have some really good stuff. I like, obviously Kate McKinnon is a national treasure.
She's incredible.
And Cecily Strong.
Cecily
I like her.
is still to this day of this class probably my favorite.
Oh my God, when she does the girl you wish you didn't start a conversation with at a
Yes.
party. I watched a
Yes.
whole bunch of those. I like her, and I like Mikey Day.
Mikey Day is great.
Mikey Day is
Yep.
really good.
Mikey
Those are
Day's
like
great.
my favorites on that. I mean, and obviously Keenan. Like
They're what's his name? Kyle Mooney.
Kyle
and I
Mooney?
think he's more of a writer on the show
Okay.
too. He's incredible.
Mm-hmm. I
Some
like
of the
that
stuff
group.
he does. I mean, it's out there, but they're great. Yeah.
yeah, those. I mean, I watch them sometimes. I don't catch. I don't remember the last time I watched SNL because I don't even have TV.
Yeah.
You know, I don't watch it. I don't have
yeah.
like, you know, NBC at, you know, what is it, 11:30? Is it till 11:30?
11:30. Yeah.
I don't watch that anymore. I just watch it the next day.
Yeah.
You know, if there was a cool sketch
Yeah, on social or something. Yeah.
I'll
I
watch it.
still watch it religiously. I DVR it every
man.
week. And they're on hiatus now with all this going on.
I know.
Yeah, they're not coming back for a while. I will say though that they've had a couple of special episodes over the course of the last season or two. I'm getting a little. I'm kind of done with the politics on the show because it's just every
everything.
skit.
Because that's where they're gonna get. But that's where they're gonna get the hits.
They'll get the hits,
George,
but it's,
you know
it's
what I
just
mean?
Because of the fact that it's still the same people running the show. It saddens me a little bit because that's not the spirit of the show. It was always a part of the show in a big way.
For sure.
In a big way. But when you had last season where Adam Sandler came back and you had this season where Eddie Murphy came back, those were hands down, and not just because of I'm a huge Eddie fan and a huge Adam fan, hands down, probably the two best episodes in the last 10 years. Hands down.
I watched the Eddie Murphy episode. I liked it. It could have been better. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I think they missed the mark on a couple of the sketches.
Yeah.
The things that I saw that Adam Sandler did, I only saw his opening monologue, which was great, and then I saw his
the best of all his characters.
No, I watched.
that was great.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
But when I saw the Farley song,
Yes.
forget it.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
a little bit of a mess.
So was I.
You
so
know?
was I.
Because
and I had seen that already on his Netflix special.
Oh, really?
That was on.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought that was the first time they did it.
It's called 100% Fresh. It's called. The
I'll go
Netflix
check that
special.
out.
Check it out. Great special. But yeah, I had seen that already. But doing it on SNL meant so much more.
I'm sure. I mean, those guys were great, and then you forget how good they were.
Yeah.
You know how long they've been gone.
Yeah.
But when I think about my brother and I are always. We're always doing all the lines from Tommy Boy. I mean, I
just did it last night.
I mean, all of those. That's part of those. Those are the ones who were. They were like the grunge era of the comedy. You know, like if I think about what I listened to when I was a kid, I was like Pearl Jam, blah blah blah, and like who were the comedians? It was always Mike Myers. It was always Adam Sandler.
All of them.
Do you remember? Did you remember his first album?
I have all his albums.
Oh my God,
they're all gonna laugh at
like
you.
Everybody,
we're all gonna laugh at you.
We're gonna laugh at you. No. We listened to that constantly.
We still do.
Oh my God, I haven't listened to it in years, but I have to. But those sketches were hilarious, and we died. And it was sketches on a comedy.
They
album.
were just out of this world. It's hard to pick them out from my kids right now because
rough.
So we don't do like straight up PG in my house. We'll go like PG-13, maybe a little halfway between, once in a while. But like, do you remember The Longest Pee?
Yes.
I play that on my Sonos in the house through every speaker, just like randomly when the kids are there, and they're belly laughing in the other room
because that's their
belly
comedy
laugh.
right
That's
now.
their comedy. Yeah.
Do you have Fatty McGee?
Yeah.
That's
Fatty McGee.
Fatty McGee, you couldn't do that now.
No,
you could not. A lot of those jokes you couldn't do now.
You could not.
You couldn't do any of those jokes now.
No, not at all.
You couldn't do any of that
not
stuff.
at all. The one I always play, and I have to mute the one part. 7 foot. Do you remember 7 Foot Man? I'm the 7 foot man.
No, I don't know
I've
that
committed no crime. I think he just plays it from a live in concert that he did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, great song.
I liked I always liked the not Jewish, the Who's Jewish song, the Hanukkah song.
Oh, the Hanukkah song.
God,
yeah.
it. Hanukkah song is awesome. I actually was listening to a whole bunch from the other day. Like I was listening to the Hanukkah song, I was listening to the second Hanukkah song, and then I got to Lunch Ladyland, and I was trying to explain to a friend of mine, hoagies and grinders. Like, what's that? I was like, oh, you don't know that? Because I was dating a girl who had to be at least 10 years younger than me, and they did not get it. So I certainly went back, and I was like, I listened to this. And I was like, who's this? It's Adam Sandler.
But
And
they
you
don't
like
get
the
it.
old guy? But like some of it, they
don't
like.
get it.
Oh my God!
My wife is 11 years younger
There
than
you
me.
go.
and there is some of the humor. She's pretty good about it, but you didn't live through it. Like because we were in junior high school and high school probably. We were in the beginning of high school when all that came out.
But that was our humor.
Yeah.
Like that. We weren't listening to like Lewis Black back then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We were listening. It was a little bit. It was like sophomoric. It was like
that's exactly what it was.
It was like like college humor.
Yeah.
And because our brains weren't fully developed.
Yeah.
All we knew was, sex, pee, and poop. And
Yeah.
and Adam Sandler gave us all of that.
Yeah, all
in
of
spades,
it. All
without
of
a
it.
doubt.
He's had an interesting career. Really, really interesting, because after SNL, and he was that whole cast was fired.
Yes.
Like Rock, Spade, Sandler.
But you
all
listen
of
to
them.
that. You listen to that Howard
Farley.
You listen to that Howard Stern
Oh, yeah.
episode. I caught a little bit of that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize all that.
All of them were fired.
They were all fired.
Yeah, and then he did Billy Madison, and it skyrocketed him. And what I love about him is how he took them all with him. You know?
Exactly.
They're still every single movie. And even behind the scenes, because he had his little crew that was part of his movie crew that was
Those guys.
outside of SNL.
Yeah, those
like
three
Alan
dudes.
Covert, right? Grandma's Boy. Great movie. So underrated.
Oh my god. You know what's
he-
great about that movie is the grandma,
The Matrix
friend.
line is the best movie. How much do clothes cost in the Matrix? Do you remember that line?
No, I don't.
Who
Oh,
was
because that guy was
the guy
was
that used to
Matrix.
dress like from like he was from the Matrix.
Well, who was the woman? What's the name of the woman from the Partridge Family? And she was the one he ends up hooking up with.
Oh, the grandmother's friend, right? Yeah.
She's like
okay.
a big musical
The
theater
mother
person.
from the
Yeah,
party.
yeah, the Partridge Family. And she
Yeah.
was like, and back in the day, like the reason I know her and I love her because she was in all those old musicals like Carousel, and she was in Oklahoma,
Yeah.
all those old movie musicals, and then she was the mom on the Partridge Family, and it was like, oh, this is perfect. This is perfect. This is a perfect person for this job.
Man,
oh
so
my God, we
we
sit
have-
here all night.
We should do an episode
without
like
a
this.
doubt.
For sure. So we have veered way off
Way
topic
off track.
right now.
But let's bring it back, because at the end of the day, like, these are the things we have to, sometimes I think nostalgia is good.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it's bad, but I think we have to remember the things that are good right now.
Yeah.
And I think we have to, maybe we could share those things with our family and our friends and revisit those things, because we have a lot of time.
Yeah.
At the same time, maybe those things can inspire us to do our own stuff.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of time to sit and think, and we can go crazy in our own little, quarantine places, or we can use that time to come out stronger. And I think that's the important thing, and that's the one thing that I've been trying to think about these last couple of days, because it's only been a couple of days. It might be a couple of weeks. It might be a couple of months.
Yeah, for real.
So
for real.
Certainly, keep the juices flowing in the brain area.
I agree
and
with
I think
you,
we
man.
should come out. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you being here.
Anytime, man.
All right,
Thanks
man.
for having me.
You got it. Well, that's going to do it for guests, because I think we hit our limit of guests today. 4 on one episode. I think that is definitely a record for us. Jen Klock, Jennifer Muccioli, Tricia, Brouk, Rob McCaffrey, who was a surprise. That was a fun guest to bring in here. We went through a range of conversation here. I'm not sure how much of it is going to make it onto the podcast. I hope when we edit this down later that all of it makes it. But we started with talking about coronavirus and somehow went through TV shows, movies, actors, Broadway. That's what we do here at the Launchcast. You never know what to expect. And now it's time for, what happens at the end of every show. This is going to be a different one, though. It's time for our spark moment of the episode, spark moment of the week. Let me pen in for this one, those that are watching on video. You ready for this one? Wash your hands. That's the spark moment of the week. Simple as that, guys. I think when we talk about the spark moment and how important it is to look at events in your life that have changed the trajectory of it, changed moments of your life that have changed the trajectory of your life and your path going forward, I think this time is going to be really pivotal for a lot of people. I think it's going to be really important. It's going to be something that we always remember. Hopefully it's just going to be a distant memory in the long run. But hey, man, you got to turn the negatives into a positive. You got to learn how to keep living life, although safely. You got to learn how to keep living life and how to keep moving forward and how to keep being successful. And so I hope that we helped you accomplish that during this show. I hope that you remember, as my friends on the Norwegian cruises say, washi washi, washi washi all the timey. Don't forget, Tell your kids to wash their hands too. Tell your mom and dad to wash their hands. Sometimes they forget. Tell your wife. Tell your wife. Tell your kids. Tell your husbands. Wash your hands. Stay clean. Stay away from people. It's just a couple of weeks. It's not going to kill anybody. Well, the virus will, but not staying away from people. Until next time, my friends, remember to follow all that stuff. Follow the Launchcast. Follow Launchpad CEO. Follow me everywhere. Get on that podcast. Subscribe. Listen. Rate. Review. Share it. Tell your friends. Tell your mom. Tell everybody. We're going to be here for another episode very soon because even though everything's on lockdown, not the Launchcast, guys. We're still going. We will never, ever stop. Until next time, guys. We'll see you later.
Launch sequence terminated.
Into the black hole.
Thanks for listening to the Launchcast today. Please make sure to subscribe to this feed wherever podcasts are available. Follow me, George Andriopoulos, at Launchpad CEO on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And make sure to visit our website, guys, thelaunchcast.com. Looking forward to the next episode. See you soon, guys.